This video is part of the University of Westminster Open 2021 event, where we're going to be discussing the big, controversial and difficult question in our field currently, which is, does Architecture University prepare you for practice? In order to shed light on this and to share my perspective, here's my journey. I knew from an early age that I was not able to learn in the traditional way schools taught us. I was much more in tune with the creative subjects and learning. The art studio was where I felt I belonged. In fact, I used to get detention so often that they just used to let me serve my time in the art studio. My art teacher knew I was a mischievous boy and used to regularly get annoyed at me when she saw my work because she wanted me to apply myself in the same way to other subjects. I was one of the very few students to get 100% in my art GCSEs, but it was the way my art teachers believed in me that truly gave me confidence. It made me think I could maybe keep going with this education thing. But into my A-levels, I was still almost failing all my other subjects out of sheer demotivation. But my art teacher managed to convince me to go for a foundation art course in Canterbury, because no other uni would have taken me. I went reluctantly, but once I got there, I loved it. I could just draw, paint, make models, create graphics, and I could thrive creatively, and I was surrounded by similar people. Why couldn't I be taught in the same way at school, I wondered. I started to realize, however, that artistic professions didn't have good career prospects, generally speaking, so I started to think about how I could create a business or brand that could eventually bring in decent money. So I started a clothing line. I called it Two Worlds Design because I always felt that I was living in two worlds. As a child, I struggled to understand my identity, balancing two distinctly different cultures. As a teen, I felt the need to be spiritual, which conflicted with my urge to be a bit wild and rebellious. And so I dealt with these dualities my whole life, and I wanted a way to express it. The business kicked off as I designed many different t-shirts and got my DJ friends to market it at various music events. There was a bit of a hype, and I got my first taste of design as a business. Thanks to my foundation course, I was then able to enroll directly into the Canterbury School of Architecture at the University for the Creative Arts. But throughout my first year, I was more focused on the brand and the business and partying than the course itself. This frustrated my tutor, and I ended up failing a few modules that almost didn't get me into second year. At this point, I had to reevaluate. I wanted to keep building my brand, but I also started to really love architecture, so I rebranded. I applied the same design ethos of two worlds to my architectural thinking, which worked a treat because architecture was fundamentally concerned with two worlds: the outer world of buildings and material, as well as the inner world of psychology and experience. The spiritual and sacred aspect also fitted in perfectly with architecture. But I wondered to myself, how was I meant to promote, build and maintain this brand while staying focused with my studies? That's when I discovered the currency of architecture: drawing. And I rediscovered my passion for art. I started uploading all of my drawings and conceptual designs onto Instagram, and it started to get noticed. Big pages started sharing and featuring my work, and I started to grow a following. My passion and desire was burning strong, and I managed to finish my bachelor's degree with first-class honours, which felt alien to me. But it was a sign to me that I was on the right track. Then this weird thing happened. I was thrown into architectural practice. It felt detached from what I was doing at university. And being at a very small firm, I was given a lot of responsibility. But being who I am and knowing that I wanted to take this field seriously, I knuckled down and worked as hard as I could. Amazing things happened at this tiny firm. We got incredible projects for our size, and I was given leading responsibilities on a few contemporary barn conversion projects. One of them was even picked up by Grand Designs. And so with this vital experience, I went back into university for my master's. But I had a yearning to know more about practice. That's when the Two Worlds Design podcast was born. I discovered so many outstanding and reputable tutors at the University of Westminster that my first several episodes materialized very quickly. I even used the university's professional recording studios in Harrow to film and record all on my own. And it was bloody hard to balance all of that with my masters. But I'm glad I made the most of all of the facilities I had around me. I spoke to remarkable practitioners in the field and outside of the field. And after many episodes speaking to various leading professionals, I started to realize something profound. And that was that the field of architecture was rapidly evolving. Our roles as architects was changing. I also discovered that we are far more capable than just limiting ourselves to designing buildings, and that this was starting to be reflected in practices across the world, especially after the pandemic hit. I had this powerful realization that maybe university was not preparing us for the jobs of today, but instead it was giving us the tool set and vision to create the roles of the future. And so I started my next job as a partner and part 2 architectural assistant at this incredible forward-thinking practice, which designed award-winning buildings and spaces at every scale, which had its own think tank and a completely flexible outlook and business model. And that brings me to where I am today, talking to you guys, trying to give you a bit more insight and share my crazy journey, which has been extremely difficult at times, but because of that has given me a perspective that maybe you could find useful, or maybe you could take value from. And right now, I kind of live in 2 worlds. I have a strong foot in the working world where I work a full-time job at this practice, and at the same time, I have multiple external endeavors where I'm working on publications, where I'm giving talks, where I'm regularly adding new content to my YouTube channel and podcast, all in the efforts to provide some sort of educational value and to maybe create a new role for myself in the future, maybe a new role for you guys. And so to go back to the question, which I haven't really answered, I don't think it's an easy question to answer. I think everyone should have their own view on it, but one thing I can say for sure is university did prepare me. It did give me the tool set to do things that other university courses or a more stringent and more constrained university course probably couldn't do. But that doesn't mean we can't improve our university system. And that is the conversation that needs to keep on going.